All good. Good afternoon, and welcome anyone out there that may be watching this afternoon, and welcome to 2026. Hopefully it'll be a good year. Hindmarsh Shire Council acknowledges this meeting is being held on the lands of the Watchabolik, Jardwa, Jali, Werrigara and Jopawalt nations, and we acknowledge them as traditional owners of country. We recognise the important ongoing role that Indigenous people have in our community and pay their respects to their elders past and present. This meeting is being broadcast on the internet, and the recording of the meeting will be published on Council's YouTube channel and linked to Council's website. As a visitor in the public gallery, you may be filmed. By remaining in the public gallery, you consent to being filmed and for the recording of you to be made publicly available by Council. A copy of the Council's live streaming and recording of Council meetings policy is available at the back of this room and on Council's website. Please speak to one of our staff members if you have any questions. I'll hand over to Councillor Clark to read out a statement of values.
Thank you, Mayor Ismay. Our commitment is to come prepared to every meeting, fostering a respectful and inclusive environment where accountability and approachability are at the core of our actions. We value and encourage innovation, collaboration, and open communication, always keeping in mind the well-being and needs of our community. Together, we stand united as one, working towards shared goals with mutual respect and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 2, apologies. No apologies. 3, declaration of interest. Has anyone in the room got a general or material conflict of interest in any item on the agenda? No. Okay. Item 4, reports requiring a decision. 4.1, financial statement and performance statement 2024-2025. This report presents the adjusted financial statement and performance statement for 2024-2025 after changes required by the VAGO audit were implemented. The annual financial statement and performance statements have been prepared in accordance with the Local Government Act 2020 and the Local Government Regulations 2020. Following completion of the 2024-25 audit by Council's auditors, the management representation letter was issued and officers were notified that they could present the draft statements to the Audit and Risk Committee and subsequently to Council. Following presentation of the draft statements to Council on the 13th of October 2025, the 2024-2025 financial statement and performance statement were sent to VAGO for issuing of the independent auditor's report. VAGO identified discrepancies in the financial statements due to an error in the application of useful life of pavement-based components of sealed and unsealed roads and miscalculation of building components following the implementation of aesthetic software during the 2024-2025 financial year. Council's officers have worked with VAGO and VAGO are now satisfied with the treatment of the depreciation for the 2024-2025 financial year. The adjustment to the depreciation is reflected in the comprehensive income statement and does not alter the cash flow statement. Being cash and the cash equivalents held at the 30th of June 2025, a statement of capital works. Okay, are there any questions from any around the table? Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Mayor Ismay. I just was wondering about the delay of the 3 months. You did mention that when the documents went to VAGO, they picked up the discrepancy and the depreciation. Being part of the Audit and Risk Committee, it was queried about the significant increase in comparative to budget for the amount of depreciation at the first viewing. And I thought it was is VAGO our auditors, or was the other auditors, the auditors that we engaged with, did they pick up the discrepancy?
I'm happy to answer that, Mr. Mayor. So
Absolutely.
Vargo is the Victorian Auditor General and they appoint an external auditor to act on their behalf. Council had been given approval to have in principle support from council at a council meeting, and then following that, it's provided to Vargo to do the final sign off. It was at that point that Vargo picked up the errors, not picked up by Vargo's representative.
Right. And may I ask what steps we have taken that will ensure that this issue would not occur again?
I'm happy to answer that as well. So a lot of the issue that occurred in the previous financial year was around the timing of the input of the valuation data and us bringing in new software. So coming the new financial year, we'll have another full year working with this software. We know how it works. We know how to check the inputs and all of that. And also we're being really careful with monitoring the timing of the new valuation for this year. So we already have a plan in place with our assets and our finance team leading up to end of financial year, and then after that to make sure that it doesn't happen.
Okay, and can I assume that our accountant at Hindmarsh Shire Council is a CPA?
You can assume that.
Thank you.
Okay, any further, councillor Clark?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just had a bit of a read through this 78-page report. Great, interesting stuff. Put me to sleep for 2 nights. It was very good, like that. But I noticed in the where it came down to our equipment and that, there was a substantial increase. And this came from selling of the Drum Hall, the Dimboola Bowls Club, and also selling plant that we found that was surplus to requirements. Is that correct?
Yes, so during the year, if we purchase new equipment and we find that the previous item of plant is surplus to our needs, we will send that item off to the auction. And we also had the 2 halls during the year as well. But we're continually reviewing the plant and equipment that we do have hold for council, looking at the usage rates, so how many hours it may be used for the year, to determine if we are best to hold that item of plant or whether we're best to sell the item of plant and just hire it in as required.
Yeah. Therefore, obtaining best values for.
Absolutely. While we own the item of plant, we have standard items like insurance, registration that we are paying for, whereas that's factored into the hire rate if we're hiring it in. So if we had an item of plant, for example, that we may have used for, say, 30 hours of the year, we may look at that item of plant and say, it's costing us a lot of money to have that sitting there because the working hours are 1,978 per year for 1 staff member. When you think 30 hours is all that piece of equipment was used for, we look at hiring it in. So we would block the work that would utilise that piece of equipment and hire it in and then cost it to the job that we're doing at the time.
Okay, no worries. Now, one other line that very much attracted my interest, and it seems to be in relation to the Shire having any loans, borrowings, and I noticed it was 0. Now, is that correct?
Yes, so Hindmarsh doesn't have any debt, so we don't have any loans or borrowings. We try to make sure that our projects are within our means, so what we can afford. It's not to say that if we did have a longer term asset that we were looking at renewing that would provide significant benefit to the broader community for years to come, that as a council it wouldn't be worthwhile considering taking a loan. But for our day-to-day operations, it doesn't make financial sense to take out a loan, and for our asset renewal we wouldn't be encouraging a loan either.
Yeah, so no worries. So just when I look around the rest of councils around Australia, we're becoming one of the better decreasing numbers not having a loan or borrowings. So that's why I thought that was a big line to read. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Mayor Ismay. This question is for CEO Ms. Ravel or Director of Community Ms. Crute, in regard to the variation between the actual and the budget for operating grants. There was a actual of 9 million income but the budget was only for 5.6.
Yes, so throughout the year, we received grants that we haven't budgeted for. So we had kinder grants that we received during the year, but the majority of that additional grant revenue was the early payment of the financial assistance grants. So often the financial assistance grants will be paid in advance. And this year, or 24-25, we saw 50% of the 25-26 allocation paid before the 30th of June. So that's why our grants for the 24-25 in operating are a lot higher than budgeted. That will be reflected this year. If we don't receive an early grants commission payment, we'll see a decrease in our budgeted operational grants for the 25-26 year.
Thank you. And then I can assume that then you would put a note to that effect for next year or this year in there. So yeah, that was my next question. So I have another question for either CEO Ms. Ravel or for our Director of Infrastructure, Mr. Elton there. I noticed there's a significant difference in our capital works versus actual versus budget. The budget was for 500,000 and the actual was nearly 2.5 million. I was wondering if you could talk to that, what that was about.
I'm happy to speak to that. Yes, so that's for buildings. So we had a number of larger projects that were carried forward. We received the funding for in 23-24 or possibly earlier. One of those projects was the Davis Park Grandstand, which we've now seen has been completed. Another project is for the Lou Shilling Silo. So there were some larger building projects that were carried forward. The Japarut Workshop as well was a multi-year project. And so that expenditure is reflected in the 25 financial year.
So even though the budget was small, the expense was large, but it was all, we had the funds to cover it. So it didn't impact financially.
No, so the funds were carried forward from previous budgets.
And along with that, in the same area for capital works, we did have a budget for 4.3 for roads, and we only spent 2.5. So was there difficulties in completing road capital works or?
That's predominantly, we had two large grants that we had applied for. One of them was for the Dimbulla Minyip Road, and the other one was for the Lorquin Netherby Road. We were unsuccessful with both of those grants, unfortunately. So that's the reflection in the difference between the actuals and the budgeted amount.
We're still hopeful of getting grants for those projects.
We've reapplied.
Nice.
And we'll keep reapplying. They are high priorities for us.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, anything further anywhere?
Yeah, maybe one for Mr. Rebel. I noticed in the budget we've received, was it the Desert Fires, around about $36,000 to support, but yet we spent over 80 something to replace certain equipment. What was that?
Yes, so through the disaster recovery, we aren't eligible for all costs incurred to be reimbursed. There's a $35,000, I guess, excess is what they would call it. Fortunately, through the financial assistance grants, if you have had a natural disaster and you have received disaster recovery funding, the financial assistance grants will assist by repaying the $35,000. So we will be out of pocket slightly, but not as significant as it's looking at the moment because we'll receive the $35,000.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything further anywhere? If not, we have a motion in front of us. Does someone like them? Councillor Barker. Sorry, I didn't see a hand there. My apologies.
Not used to seeing me in this corner. Thank you, Mayor Ismay. I would like to move that pending no material changes to the statements, Council 1 approves in principle the end of the financial report and performance statement for the year ended 30th of June 2025, and 2 authorises Mayor Councillor Ron Ismay and Deputy Mayor Councillor Rosie Barker to sign the end of year financial report and performance statement in their final form.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Barry. No one's opposing the motion. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Ismay. I can see this has been quite a journey to complete this end of year financial report, considering, 3 months and change of asset management system being the main impact. And the reinsurances that we've had from council in regard to maintaining that in the future. It's always difficult when you change big software programs. Altogether, we'd have to say on the basis of our performance statement and the financial accounts that our shire is going reasonably well. We are, also potentially, I know that we've got some other reports that we're going to be doing to state government, etc., to increase, potential funding. We really need to have more for our small, rural shire. So good job for what we do here and with the people and assets that we have. I'm hopeful for future advocating for more funding support and grants in 2026.
Yep. Thank you. Councillor Barry, you like to speak?
No,
No?
new programs, that's all it is, and it's going to get used to it. AI, we've got to learn to live with it because it's going to make our life a lot easier.
Supposedly.
Hopefully.
All right, put the motion. All in favour? Against, the motion is carried. Thank you. And I think, as Sean Connery said, here ends the lesson. Thank you. The meeting's closed. Thank you for anyone that may be watching in. Thank you, and we'll see you again later in the month.
Quick.